There. How's that?
That's awesome. Hey, everybody. I want to introduce to you my friend Melanie Borbo, and she is going to give us a talk about mindset today. I think that any time that you are building a business, one of the things that you need to work on is your own mindset because we have the tendency to have a lot of negative self-talk. And we often say to ourselves, we shouldn't talk to ourselves that way. And yet, it can be challenging to break out of it. So I've invited Melanie to give us a talk about how to go about that. So, Melanie, take it away.
All right. Well, I'm super excited to be here. Um, I'll just give you a quick little rundown as to what some of the things we're going to talk about today. Obviously, I'm going to introduce myself and who I am and why I'm here to talk to you. Um, just a vision and mission. Oh, I forgot to change that. Haha, funny. And then just ways to renew your mind, taking our thoughts captive, cognitive behavioral therapy, an action step that I have for you because I believe that it's not about information, it's about taking action. And then just if you have more information, and then if there's time, if you have any questions for me, Paula, we can do that after as well. So, who am I and why am I here? Well, my name is Melanie Borbo, as Paula so beautifully mentioned. I say that because so many people get that last name wrong. In fact, when I started dating my husband, I did the same thing. I never wanted to say his last name because I'm like, wow, I'm going to butcher that so hard. So I just laugh because I totally understand it's not an easy name. But I am a wife, a mom, a grandmom. We just had our first little grandson here in November, so that's like a whole new thing, right? Just puts your life in a whole different perspective. And I am a blessed believer. I love hiking, biking, boating, camping, reading, and anything to do with nature, anything to do with house, like gardening, all the things, right? I love to be healthy. I love to be energetic, and I'm always curious. I'm always learning because I believe that if we stop learning, then we are on the road to ruin. I really truly believe that when we're learning, we are at our best. So I am a health coach turned podcaster turned community host. And after years of helping others, I've gotten pretty good at dispelling the junk that kind of keeps women stuck. And this is important because when we feel regulated and safe in our identity, we can become more aligned with our God-given purpose and we can walk boldly in our calling and use our mess to make or to share an impact making message. I've heard it another way that our test will be our testimony. And I really believe that because when we look back on life and all we've experienced, all we've learned, all we've come through, there's always something in it that can help or serve somebody else. And so that's what I think we're here to do, actually, to be totally honest. Um, now, so what are we going to talk about today? So my vision, this is my vision, is that to see women making a difference in their families, their communities, and their nations with their business, with the calling that they have on their heart, right? With that thing that has been sitting maybe on the back burner, that thing that they know that they're good at or that they've already overcome. That's my vision, is to see women truly making a difference with what they have been given in their life. My mission, obviously, is to help free these women from the lies that they've been under and to help them renew their minds for greater kingdom impact. Again, I believe and whether you're a believer or not, I believe that you're still going to get value out of this. Now, I do love the Lord and I do talk about him. But I still think that mindset and ways to handle it, the action step is still going to be something that you can take away with, regardless of what you believe. So I just want to give that little disclaimer. So mindset is, I've heard this said before, that mindset is discipleship of the mind. Because here's the thing, we are not, so many of us think that what we think is the truth. And what we think is like, that should be it because it's what we thought, but it's truly not it. And again, I'm going to go to scripture, but Romans 12:2 says, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what that is good and acceptable of the perfect will of God. Now, when we think about the world, and don't get me started on all the stuff that's going on right now, right? Like, there's so many ways that people want us to believe what they believe or to pull in their direction. But we know, at least I hope you know, that we can't we can't let every wind of doctrine, blow us off course. And I have been there many times, my friend, like especially in business. I have been where it's like, okay, you follow this guru. Oh, I'm going to do what they say. Oh, next week you're following this guru. Oh, no, I better do what they say. Well, all that's ever done is cause me to spin my tires and, not get anywhere. It wasn't until I really got clear on this whole mindset thing, and really and using my thoughts as the tool that they are, not driving my driving factor, but like just using it in the way that it was intended, that we should use our thoughts for our good and not for our harm. So when I think about entrepreneurship, it is a unique calling, right? Not everybody is equipped to be a business owner or to be an entrepreneur, or especially women who have families and, they're the nurturers and they want to, just do the thing. Sometimes entrepreneurship can be a challenge. And a lot of that, I believe, in my experience, has come from what we tell ourselves, what goes on inside of our mind, right? Um, when we start a business or when we step into, being an entrepreneur, many things come up for us. And it can be an experience of, like I say, exposing our inner narrative. So what are we actually telling ourselves? That becomes really loud and clear when we become business owners or when we even think about being business owners. Like we may feel fear, comparison, like I can't do what she did, right? Imposter syndrome. Who am I to think that I can actually teach someone to do this thing, right? Failure. How many of us like kind of get stuck on where we think we failed in our life? I'm going to talk to you about that in a second too, because failure is not always what we think it is. And then there's the scarcity. Like, what if I start this and it doesn't work? Or what if I don't get clients? Or what if I can't sell this? Or what if, or what if, or what if? But here's the thing, that all that stuff starts in our mind. But my daughter and I were having a discussion the other day, and she was just talking about how, my son and my son-in-law are starting this other business. They both have their other thing, their main thing, but they're starting this thing where they're going to start to pump water out of like oil wells. We live in Alberta, so there's oil wells all around us. But in the spring, they can get really filled with water. Anyway, so she was talking about how these guys are going into business together. They're going to buy this big pump to do whatever they do with this pumping out water. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Like, I think that's so exciting. And she said, Mom, she said, I think too many people are scared of risk. And I said, yeah, I think so. Very much so. Because, she goes, there's nobody around here doing this. She said, why hasn't anyone ever thought of it? I said, because it's only going to get used for like a couple months out of the year. So therefore they may think it's a big risk. But we had this really cool discussion and about how, what if you just do it? What if you just try this? These are my daughter's words. And I was just like, yes, yes, I love this so much. So I just wanted to share that with you, that she's only 25 and she's already thinking that, what if you just do it? What if you don't worry about the risk? And I thought it was really cool. So another scripture that I love is that, and many people don't realize this, is that we get to take our thoughts captive. So many times people think that our thoughts are, written in stone, that's that. I'm thinking it, so it must be true. But man, oh man, oh man, has that not been the case for me? So often, something that I'm thinking about or something that I'm playing over and over in my head or whatever, worrying about, it actually never comes true. I just spend all that time worrying about it for no good reason. And I'll tell you when this became really important to me. When I was I was probably 12 years old, 12 or 13, maybe 14 years old. So a long time ago now. But my mom was a single mom. She had four of us. I was the oldest. And she had gone out one evening. She had gone out and it was like, I don't know, whatever time it was, midnight or later. And my mom wasn't home yet. And that was the time when we didn't have cell phones and, like all the things. And I started to really freak out about what if something happened to my mom? What would I do? How would I look after all these kids? Like, and I'm starting to really get into this anxious space of, oh my goodness, like, what if something happens? What if something happens? And all of a sudden, loud and clear, like I'm talking crystal clear, I heard something say to me, Do you want this to happen? And I went, no, of course I don't want this to happen. Then stop thinking about it right now. Like you have to stop right now. It was so that the authority that I heard that with was so like nothing I'd ever heard before that it made me stop. It made me go, okay, okay, like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about my mom. She's gonna come home. She's gonna come home. She's gonna come home, right? I changed my narrative without me knowing that that's what I had to do or even the importance of it. But from that point on, I paid very close attention to what I thought about because to me it was important enough. And I know now that that was the Holy Spirit, right? That was God telling me, stop this nonsense, or you're actually going to get what you're freaking out about. And how often does that happen? You know, like sometimes we worry and fret over things that never happen, but how often do we actually bring it right into our awareness because we've thought about it for so long. We've worried about it for so long. And so I love this. When I first heard this scripture, I thought, you know, I get to take my thoughts captive. I get to decide what thought stays in my head or what thought I actually act on. That was such a game changer for me because it put it all in perspective. The thing that I'd heard years and years and years ago about not, you know, calling on that my mom dying in a car accident thing. And from there, it was just like, wow, this makes so much sense. So, but unfortunately, I don't know that a lot of people, women, know that they actually are allowed. They actually can take their thoughts captive. You know, that we have dominion over our thoughts. I don't know that a lot of people think about that. And so that's why for me, mindset is something, it's different. It's not like I need to only think positive thoughts. I don't think that that's what it is either, but it's being aware, and that's what we're gonna talk about with cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but so some people call it talk therapy, some people call it. I think the real name is cognitive behavioral therapy. I did hear another name for it the other day, but I forgot to write it down. And anyway, I don't think it matters that much. But if you look it up, it's basically so the idea is that you watch your thoughts, you become aware of them, then you reframe them, and then you repeat it over and over and over again. Because here's what happens is like we have in our brain, we have pathways, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this, neural pathways, right? So it's just like thinking about when you walk on the grass. You're walking from your back deck to the whatever, the hot tub, let's say. And you're walking back and forth over that same path in your grass. Pretty soon, you have this path, right? This path that's dug in, that's like worn more than the rest of the grass. And all of a sudden, it's easy to see where you go. It's easy. Anyone that can walk in your yard would see exactly where you walk all the time. And that's what happens in our brain. So the more we think a thought, the more we build that deep pathway, that trench, and the easier it is to walk that thought over and over and over again. However, if you want to actually take your thoughts captive, to have dominion over your thoughts, you might quite likely, quite possibly actually have to create a new pathway. And so that's what happens when we start to watch our thoughts. So I want to give you an example. So, okay, so let's say in that case of me freaking out about my mom getting killed in a car accident, if I played that over and over and over every time my mom left the house, if I played that over in my head every single time, I would have had a well-worn path. So it's easy for me to worry then. It's easy for me to fret. But which I did unconsciously because I didn't know that I was doing it, but what I did is I had to change it. So instead of saying what if my mom get killed in a car accident? It's like my mom is going to come home. My mom is going to be home. She's safe. She's fine. She's fine. My mom is fine. It's fine. Um, and then so I got so that the more I became aware of me thinking those kinds of negative thoughts, and the more I switched them to a positive thought, the easier the positive thought became, and the more positive things I saw in my life. And like I work with women, I coach women that have depression and anxiety, have since moved into kind of like emotional blocks, that kind of thing. But what I hear over and over and over again is I'll hear them say the words, that something is terrible or something is bad or something doesn't work. And I'm like, and that's exactly what they're seeing in their life. But so often it's like, no, you have to switch. You have to switch that. Like just recently, not very long ago, I was talking to a lady who was, oh, so negative and so angry just for some things that had happened in her life. And I listened to her for probably 20 minutes, half an hour. I just listened, but I kept hearing the same thing over and over again. There was so much bitterness, there was so much anger, there was so much hatred. And I'm like, you're never going to see anything good. I finally said to her, listen, like, you want me to be totally honest? This has nothing to do with those people. This has to do with what you're running, that tape that you're running over and over and over in your head a million times. You have got to switch that. And it's gonna be hard now because you've built this fortress around these other thoughts. You have to start to switch it. And so this is what, like, there's a whole book on cognitive behavioral therapy. So I mean, obviously in this short little talk that I'm doing with Paula, I can't dig into that. But the idea is that so you start to pay attention to your thoughts. And the way I like to say it is you think about what you're thinking about. You know, you're like all of a sudden you're grumbling and you're complaining and you're, okay, wait, whoa, back up, slow down. What am I thinking about right now? Why are these words, these negative words coming out of my mouth right now? What am I thinking about? And it takes practice. I'm not going to say that this happens easy. It's not like, oh, yeah, I got this. This takes diligent practice because you have to build new pathways, right? So you want to watch your thoughts. And I'm not saying to judge them or to say this is a negative thought, just watch them. First, that's all you do. You just watch. Be aware. And if you need to, like I started when I first started doing this kind of work, consciously doing this kind of work, I wrote things down. Like, what am I thinking? What did I think about today? What was the main idea of what I thought about today? And I would have a journal and I would start to write things down. And then I would go back and look at it and I'm like, oh, wow, I thought that. That's the stuff that was in my head today. Okay, I got to change that. And so it started like with one area of my life. I just started there. And then it's like it's just a part of me. It's just what I do, right? As soon as I'm feeling off, because get this, guess where your feelings start? Many times your feelings start with your thoughts. Because there are people that can go through the exact same experience and have a completely different perspective on it, a completely different idea about it. And so why is it different? Because the thoughts that we think about it, the thoughts that we allow to entertain us or not, like keep us stuck, right? So you watch your thoughts, then you have to reframe them. Now, this is where I don't believe in like lying to yourself. And and you might disagree with me and that's okay. But like this whole affirmation thing, I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to lie to you and I don't want to lie to myself because here's what happens. When we try to lie to ourselves, our subconscious is like, oh no, oh, that's a lie. Like, no, that is not true. So okay, so for an example, let's say I am living on the streets. I'm not, but let's say I'm living on the streets and I tell myself that I'm a millionaire. I mean, okay, you guys, that's a super, super extreme case, but I want you to see, right? Like I didn't want you to have any gray area in there. If that person that's living on the streets in a cardboard box says over and over and over, and I'm a millionaire without doing anything different, I don't know. I've never seen it work that way myself. Someone could prove me wrong and I would be happy to hear that. But what I would think makes more sense is that person, that homeless person starts to say, you know what, I've fallen in some hard times, but I am working towards getting myself out of this rut. I am becoming someone who can have wealth. I'm becoming someone who can have a home. I'm becoming someone who is doing more than this. It is worthy of more than this, right? Because and that's the other thing that I work on with my inside my community and my programs and stuff is identity. Is like helping people to know, hey, I am worthy of this. Like it's not like not lying to yourself, but becoming, actually doing the work to become who you have to become in order to make that statement true. So I hope that makes sense. Paula, come off mute if you have anything to say about, like, if that doesn't really make sense or anything.
I'm
If you
sitting
don't,
here nodding this whole time. You're doing
good.
this is yes, exactly. We are
Perfect.
what we tell ourselves, and we need to be careful. Um, we need to be careful with what we try to convince ourselves of. It needs to
Yes,
still be grounded in reality, and I think that's what you're saying. So,
absolutely.
yeah. And
Awesome.
I too am a bit hesitant about affirmations in believing that you can manifest your destiny. I
Yes,
believe that
yes,
you can change your negative thinking into positive thinking, but I think we need to be very careful that that we're not trying to manifest things. You had a very good
absolutely.
point. Just thinking about something without doing something to move you forward is not going to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. And so then with that, when I say repeat daily, I should have almost put repeat consistently, because when you first start trying to take your thoughts captive, what may happen is you're going to have every excuse. They're just going to fire off every negative thought, everything. It's going to come at you like a 2-ton Tony, right? Because it our brain is designed to protect us, for starters. And so when we start trying to build a new pathway, sometimes our brain goes, whoa, no, 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 no. Whoa, what are you doing? We like this. We understand this. We want this to do this more. But again, we get to take dominion. We get to say, no, no, it's fine. We're moving on from that, and we're going to move into something else, something better. So there is going to be some work involved. There's going to be some consistency needed, some persistency needed in order to renew our mind. This isn't something that just happens just because we decide it's going to happen today. This is a process. This is a lifestyle that you must adopt if you truly want to see things different. So that means you have to keep at it. Even if it seems like it gets harder before it gets easier, which it will. It did for me. And every other woman that I've ever talked to said, but I can't do it. I can't do it. Like what I took for years, I was taking people through, I was a facilitator for a program called Depression and Anxiety Recovery. In that program, he talks about, because he's a doctor, he talks all about the science and all this stuff, right? But he has this exercise. It's crazy hard to do, but boy, does it work. He said, when you're starting to talk, when you're starting to um, watch your thoughts and be aware of things, he says, for 14 days, you do not allow yourself to think negative or to speak negative, because your words come from your thoughts, right? So once you're thinking it, it usually comes out your mouth. And here's the thing, if you fall off the wagon, so to speak, like you start to speak negative again, you have to start your 14 days over again. And I've told this to so many women, and they're like, Mel, I can't do it. No, you have to keep trying. That's the idea. That the whole point is the consistency of it. And so, but it's challenging. It is absolutely challenging because our brain is powerful. It's super powerful. So we have to be able to direct it in the right way. Use that power for good instead of negative, right? So I hope I kind of didn't beat that to death. But anyway, I think it's really important. So, what's my action step for you today? Remember, I said that I believe it's not just about information, it's about taking action. We have to take action with what we learn, otherwise, it doesn't mean anything and it doesn't stick with us anyway. So, what is your action step? So I want you to get a journal, notebook, whatever you want to write in. And I want you to write out some of the lies that you're believing right now. So, especially in the way of business, because that's obviously what we're here to talk about, is like nobody's going to buy my thing, my product, my service, right? That's probably that's a lie. You can absolutely, with confidence, write that down that that is a lie, because that's not true, because there's ways to learn the skills to get people to buy the thing, right? So, write out the lies, put them in your paper, notebook, whatever. As many as you have, write them down. I don't have time to do business. I'm never going to make any money. Nothing I do ever works. These are some of the ones I had. That's why I can rattle them off so quickly. What are some other ones that I used to have? I'm not worthy. That was a big one. Who am I to think that I'm worthy to do this, right? Um, so write them down. Write those lies, and then beside them, you're going to write down the truth. So in the case of I don't have time to start a business, if that's your lie, right? Okay. So then what could a truth be? A truth could be, I have, an extra 30 minutes a day that I spend watching Netflix. Maybe I could use that time to dun, 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 fill in the blanks. That's a truth, right? If you know that you're wasting time on social media, or you're wasting time, whatever, um, you could readjust that time. So that's a truth that you can write down. So if you don't know, if you truly don't know what the lies are or what the truth is, you always have the ability to ask the Lord, right? God, what is that? What is the truth for me? What is the lie that I'm believing? I do this all the time. I still do this. What is the lie that I'm believing? Because as we grow and we change and we read different things or we watch different things, sometimes we can take on other people's stuff. And so we want to make sure that we're standing firm on what we know is true, not what somebody else, it might be true for them, right? So, and I say that with like thinking, if someone said, oh, someone's lie is that you have to be on social media 24/7 in order to make a sale. If that's what they believe, that doesn't have to be your truth, right? That doesn't have to be the way. So anyway, there's a lot, like I say, this can go, there's so many places and ways that this could go, but I hope this lands. So you write down your lie, you write down your truth, and then that's how you can start to reframe, because those lies are going to keep coming. Those things, those negative thoughts are going to keep coming. But when you have something to anchor to, that's why for me, I love scripture. I love to anchor to scripture because I'm like, I know that that's true and I can anchor to it. So, but again, if you're not a believer, then this is the step that will take you there if you're not ready for that step. Um, but now when those negative thoughts come, you can say, oh no, the truth is, right? Like I love this, I'm becoming, because I'm becoming whatever it is that I want to become. Because if we are becoming, that means we're not lying to ourselves. We're not telling ourselves that we already are the millionaire, or we already are the whatever actor, actress. Like, I'm just pulling it out of my head, but you know what I mean? Like, when we can say, I am becoming, I want to become, I'm taking the steps toward, that's not a lie. And now your subconscious can go, oh yeah, that's true. Okay, I see that. You're reading that book, or you're taking that course, or you are becoming that. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Paula?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So yeah, so basically I'm gonna just, that's kind of where I'm gonna wrap up, because like I say, this is a topic that I could talk on for hours and hours and hours. But I do have a podcast, The Naturally Aligned Woman. You can find it on most um, big platforms, podcast platforms. And then I also have a masterclass for those women that truly feel like they're stuck. You know that you have something you want to do, or you want to feel like something. I have a free masterclass that I did, and you can get it at Peace Purpose and Provision, peacepurposeprovision.com. And it'll walk you through what season of stuck you might be in. So again, just some ways if you need some extra, I'm here to support you in those ways. But that's all I have for you for now. So Paula, if you have anything you want to ask, or however you want to finish this, it's okay.
Yes, thank you so much. This is very valuable. I think you provided some great tips for us to reframe those negative thoughts and turn them into positive ones. So I very much appreciate your time. One question that I do have is that one of your recommendations was for CBT, which I know is a therapy that you would need to go through with a licensed therapist of some sort. Are there any alternatives for people who might not be classified as needing services?
There's amazing books on Amazon. One of them, this one's a good one, not my favorite. I don't know where my favorite one is, but this one is called SOS Help for Emotions. So this one does talk a lot about being triggered. Is that backwards? That probably backwards, eh?
Yeah. No, it's good. There
Yeah.
we go.
Oh, it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's by Lynn Clark. This one's managing anxiety, anger, and depression. But
Uh-huh.
if you just go on Amazon, I think there's a book. What is the other one that I like? What's it called? Darn it, I should have had it. Um, wait, I think I see it. Oh yes, this one. This is my favorite one. This one's called Telling Yourself the Truth,
Uh-huh.
and it's by William Backus and Mary Chaplin. Chaplin. I'm not sure how you say it, but and it's called Telling Yourself the Truth. And I think this one for sure is on Amazon. Actually, they
Awesome.
both might be on Amazon, but yeah, so like start to read the book, start to because when you can understand what cognitive behavioral therapy is and how powerful it is, man, it's a game changer. It's absolutely a game changer because they talk about all the different ways that we get into crooked thinking. So like always or never, mind reading, like all these things which we do, like, oh, that person said that, they must be thinking this. That's not true. How do we know that? We don't know that. Or I'm always going to be this way, or that's never going to get any better. Again, not true, right? This is all
Mhm.
crooked thinking, they call it. And so, yeah, I would highly suggest those. Those are two of my favorite books for cognitive, but I'm sure there's lots. Like, I'm sure there's lots of books.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And one of the things that I could share from myself is that our brains are wired to protect us. And there are times when we have experiences, particularly when we're young, that we program our mind based on that experience. So, for
Yes.
instance, when I was quite young, probably 5 or 6 years old, there was a dog that came running up to me and knocked me over. Right. So from then on, I was very cautious of dogs. Well, for good
Yep.
reason, right? My brain said dogs are dangerous. You got hurt
Yep.
last time, so you want to avoid them. Well, but then I started dating someone who had a dog, and it was like,
Ah,
what do I do? Right? So I had to readjust my thinking. Not all dogs are
hmm.
dangerous.
That's
In
right.
fact, that one wasn't dangerous. It just had to be, it was just the moment. He was bigger than I was at the time. So that's the sort of basic rewiring. I think everyone can think of something, a time in their life when
Yes.
they thought one way, and if they think through why they thought that, they realize that
Yep.
it's our brain trying to protect us. And when those thoughts
Absolutely.
no longer serve us, we need to rewire them. So,
Absolutely. I had a similar experience. I had in like elementary school, I had a
mhm,
teacher. Her and I never got along for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't remember why, but she told me one time, you should never sing out loud. She told me that. So for years,
mm,
and I used to, before that, I used to stand on the stairs into our basement with all my teddy bears at the bottom and have my microphone. And I would stand and I would sing and sing and sing and sing at the top of my lungs. After she told me that, I never thought I should sing because I'm like, wow, I must be a terrible singer. And
mhm,
then I started like I met a really really good friends that I have now who are both musicians. He plays, they both play. He plays, she plays and sings, like whatever. And they
right,
love gathering people together to sing and to play
mhm,
and do all the things. And so they were always like, Mel, you should come sing with us. You should come. I'm like, no, no,
nope,
no. And finally
right,
I started singing and I thought, you know what? I may not be the best singer, but boy, I sure love doing it. Like I love
yep,
to sing. So
yep,
if I would have allowed that woman who was whatever in her own world thinking she was
right,
doing something good, I suppose.
yeah,
Um, but like that's how we can be transformed or conformed by the world instead of transformed by who we actually are supposed to be. Because what if I
absolutely,
never would have got in front of a mic again? I wouldn't be
yeah,
here talking to you right now. I wouldn't be serving clients. I wouldn't be coaching clients.
right,
So we have to be very careful on what we say to ourselves, but also to other people. We have to be careful not to stifle something that is not supposed to be stifled. So, and
absolutely,
if someone has
absolutely,
stifled you, then start to work through that and find
yeah,
out the root of that and be like, wait a minute, that's not true. I don't have to
mhm,
believe that anymore. So,
absolutely. Well, Melanie, thank you again for your time. I hope that people are able to reach out to you either through your podcast or through your website. And I look forward to doing some more activities with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. This was so fun, Paula. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.